It is said the origin of the usage of flags is both the use of military standards at war and the coats of arms of rulers. But the current template of rectangular flags has a different origin, one very relevant for this video. It comes from early modern Europe, and it was originally a naval practice. Ships flew flags to indicate what country they were from. A rectangular flag catches the wind better than any other shape, so that tended to be the shape that countries would use. After that, the idea of a flag representing a country at sea evolved into it representing the country in general, and so rectangular flags became more common on land. However, a few countries today represent themselves differently at sea than they do on land. So in this video, I want to do two things. One, understand why that is the case, and two, show you how they represent themselves using a few specific examples and demonstrating how they differ from the national flag. We could also mention the difference of state civil ensigns, which in the case of some countries also allow for a variant of the national flag on land, but that's a topic for another video, although I do mention a few of them here because they are the same. As far as I could find out, ships, boats, vessels from a specific country identify themselves at sea in different ways according to what type of ship they are and what they are doing. They can either use civil and merchant ensigns used by civilian vessels to identify their own nationality. This is usually the biggest flag on board and usually flown at the rear of the ship. The state ensign, also known as government ensign, is used by state vessels, such as Coast Guard ships, or maybe if a government had their own boat to travel in, sort of like a Sea Force 1, then the Naval Ensign, which is the most relevant for this video, being used by a country's navy. And then the Naval Jacks, which are a national flag flown by warships and certain other vessels at the head of the ship. These flags are apparently more commonly flown on the ship for special occasions. And there's also Yacht Ensigns, allowed by only a few nations to be hoisted as the national ensign by yachts. They differ from merchant ensigns and are used to indicate the yacht is not carrying any cargo, which would require a customs declaration. So to sum this first part up, there are various types of maritime flags. 5 categories we just saw that can be used to represent a country at sea. The choice of which category is used depends, like I mentioned, on what the ship is and what it's doing. So let's go through each of these categories briefly using a few examples. A civil/merchant ensign is an ensign used by civilian vessels to denote their nationality. It can be the same or different from the state or naval ensign. Most countries simply take their regular civil flag and apply it as a merchant flag for the sea. If you don't know, a civil flag is a version of the national flag that is flown by civilians or non-governmental organizations. The use of them was more common in the past to denote buildings or ships not manned by the military, and as far as I know, it has been used less and less lately. Now, the thing is, a lot of countries already have civil flags that are different from their main national ones, like Albania's, Argentina's, Taiwan's, Luxembourg's, which is an awesome flag by the way, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, etc. And a lot of them just remove their state emblem or coat of arms to create a more simplified version of the national flag. And as far as I could find out, none created a specific version of these for the sea, since most are already unique. A state flag is a variant of a national flag, or occasionally a completely different ensign, specifically designated and restricted by law to be used by a country's government or its agencies. In the case of some nations, they apply its usage to government vessels at sea as well. From what I could find out, the vast majority of countries just uses their national flag here, and it's only in very few cases that we see exceptions of countries which designed a specific maritime state flag. India is one of these exceptions, using a blue flag with a golden sideways anchor and the national flag on the top left canton. El Salvador removes their coat of arms and adds the text Dios, Unión, Libertad in gold, meaning God, unity, and freedom. I think all others just use their land state flag as their sea state flag as well. Although we should point out that the Nordic countries do so, but change the shape of the flag so that they become pennants instead of rectangles, meaning they have these triangular shapes on the right side. Then we have the main ones, naval ensigns, which are sometimes also known as war ensigns because they are used by the country's naval forces their navy. It's confusing that there doesn't seem to be an international rule for this. Some countries have specific and different naval ensigns, while others just use the regular national flag, like Brazil, Portugal, or Spain. Of the ones that do have different flags, the usage of white seems to be a tendency, and a lot of nations do a white field with their flag on their canton and or other symbols across it, like Canada, Bangladesh, Ghana, Malaysia, Ukraine, or the United Kingdom. Australia uses a white background version of their national flag. Saudi Arabia adds a new segment to the flag on the left side in blue. Hungary has a really cool one that I used on the thumbnail, white with a border of green and red triangles, and then the coat of arms on the left side. Nordic countries seem to use their national flag, but again, turning them into triangular / swallowtail pennants. Belgium, also on the thumbnail, is really cool. A white field with a burgundy cross in its national colors, then adding a few symbols on the top and bottom. Albania uses the same style as their national flag, but the red becomes a stripe in the bottom only, and the background becomes white. Russia uses a blue saltire on a white field, and Thailand uses their flag with the national elephant symbol on a red circle in the center. Oh, and Bolivia's naval ensign is also really cool. A blue field, and on the top left it has the 2 national flags, and then some golden stars. Moving on to the 4th category, the Jack. A Jack is a small flag flown at the back of a ship. Although in a few cases it's not small at all, like the case of Denmark, Germany, or Sweden, who coincidentally use the war ensign as their Jack as well. Usually flown when the ship is stopped or anchored and or for special occasions. Some countries simply apply their national flag in a smaller, squared version, like Belgium, Norway, or Romania. Chile uses a blue field and white star, Greece its top left canton isolated, and the US a blue rectangle with the 50 white stars. Some other nations use this as an opportunity to display their coat of arms. Portugal and Spain, for instance, Finland, Lithuania, or Malta. And then we have naval jacks of special design, meaning they are flags which obviously draw inspiration from the regular one, but present themselves differently. Some cool examples of this are Italy, Brazil, Estonia, Georgia, or Russia, which all look like strange versions of the UK flag. Apparently this style must be a trend for naval jacks because a lot of countries do it. Bulgaria and Latvia do as well. Indonesia, Kazakhstan, Morocco, and my favorite because of the arm which sort of looks like a pirate's, Poland. And finally, the last category, yacht ensigns. These aren't very relevant because they only apply to yachts and only in some places. From what I could find, only very few countries allow yachts to hoist the national flag as their specific ensign. Spain has this version of their flag with a blue crown in the center, Chile has this one, and France these two. It's also important to note that the majority of this small number is also exclusive to their own internal waters. In the case of the US, they have 2 yacht ensigns, one in the style of their national flag and the other with inverted colors and vertical stripes. Since we're talking about flags used at sea, we can also quickly mention the International Maritime Signal Flags. These are the small flags we usually see on ships in large groups. Essentially, they are various flags used to communicate with ships. The principal system of flags and associated codes is called the International Code of Signals. If these flags are used together, they can be spelling out a word, since a letter of the alphabet is associated to each of them. If they are flown separately, one at a time, they have a specific individual meaning. A quick example, if you want to spell out hi, you would use the H flag and the I flag, these two. But if you flew the H flag by itself, it would be interpreted according to its specific individual meaning, which in this case is, I have a pilot on board. And sometimes these tiny flags look like certain countries, but that similarity is just a coincidence and has no relevance for its meaning. The flag for the letter Y, which also means I am dragging my anchor, looks like the flag of Catalonia. The flag for C, meaning affirmative, looks like Costa Rica, and the flag for E, meaning I am altering my course to starboard, looks like Haiti or Liechtenstein. There are also flags for numbers from 0 to 9. The flag for 1 looks like the Spanish flag, and the flag for 7 looks like the flag of Peru. But again, just coincidences. Essentially, these are small flags that ships fly. They have absolutely nothing to do with the country they are from and are simply used to communicate with other vessels. The way in which they communicate and the meaning of said communication depends on which flags they fly, together or separately. So that was a quick overview of maritime flags across the world, essentially allowing us to understand how countries represent themselves at sea, how this representation varies depending on the country and the nature of the ship and what it is doing / transporting. Also briefly understanding how a specific type of maritime flags, the signal ones, are used by ships to communicate with each other. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, subscribe and leave a comment below with your opinion. Plus, let me know if you would like me to do this for other types of flags used by countries, especially focusing more on the difference between state and civil ensigns that we see in some places. I will see you next time for more general knowledge.